He's in my political party. And he's now governor of Aceh, and I'm president of Indonesia. This shows that former enemies can come together. And I think this is the lesson of Nelson Mandela.
Mr. President, you were shaking your head when we were exchanging this question. What are your thoughts on, bringing adversaries to the table? Does it require, is defeat a prerequisite for dialogue, or we can, bypass this phase and go to dialogue? And there are so many crises in the world that cannot afford a victorious
Well, I have to say here that Nelson Mandela is one of my greatest icons, my greatest hero. I think it's an inspiration. He was put in prison for many years. He was sentenced to death, threatened to be sentenced to death, accused of many things. And his famous statement was that he was willing to give his life for the principle of freedom. But the greatness of Nelson Mandela, when he got out of prison, he worked for reconciliation with his former enemies. So this is the greatness of Nelson Mandela, and this I try also to carry out in my domestic politics. I reconciled with many of my former opponents. For instance, we had a very long rebellion, separatist rebellion in Aceh, very long. I think more than nearly 30 years. But can you imagine that the former commander of the Aceh Liberation Army, fighting against us for 25 years more, now he joined my party. He's in my political party. And he's now governor of Aceh, and I'm president of Indonesia. This shows that former enemies can come together. And I think this is the lesson of Nelson Mandela. I want to say I was a former soldier. And as a former soldier, I really know the value of peace and reconciliation. As a former soldier, I always try, now, even before, I always try to negotiate. Better to talk than to kill each other. This is my position. Always talk, always negotiate.
President Putin, on a more practical question concerning the crisis in the Middle East. Now, we will talk about Ukraine in a while. But the current crisis, it touches on geopolitics, energy, and it has repercussions that go beyond the parties involved in the struggle. Is it a test for how the South can play a role in, mending defenses between both countries, in putting some good imagination around the solution, architecting a solution that can be acceptable by two parties that are fighting, head to head? Is this a test for what you are proposing and trying to create?
Download Tribun X sekarang, menghadirkan lokal menjadi Indonesia.